the crazy requirements from immigration for EU family members. So first of all, let's explain what an EU family member is. So somebody, and you can see we're in the car today, I thought I'd take advantage of this drive to Marbella to tell you about this, because this has been on my list of videos I want to do for a long time. And we can also show you a little bit of the road, can't we? As well, as this is Malaga, and this is specific to the Malaga province. So what are we talking about here with these crazy requirements? So first of all, let's back up a minute and explain what an EU family member actually is. So as you know, if you are in a family nucleus and one of the family, or one of the main members of the family, has an EU passport, then you can come and live in Spain and adopt the status of that EU citizen here in Spain. Okay, so normally of our clients, our demographic is mainly retirees, and as you can imagine, because we deal with an awful lot of British clients, a lot of the time they get some British who are able to access Irish passports, which completely changes the way they get residency in Spain. So we have a lot of retirees coming through our ranks as clients, and if they haven't got an EU passport between them, then they would have to get a visa, and that visa has to be applied for in the country of origin, mainly the UK for us, through Manchester, London or Edinburgh, which would be the non-lucrative visa. But if one of them have an EU passport, which is generally in our case an Irish one, though we do have a lot of other nationalities that we deal with, believe it or not, then they would be able to come to Spain without any residency as tourists and do the whole process here. So the process is that the EU citizen, has to first go and get their EU residency card. It's actually, they call it a Registro, which means you're actually registering as an EU citizen in Spain, and you get this flimsy little green card with no photo on it, which says, yep, I've been to the police and I've registered, I've proven that I've got somewhere to live in Spain, I've proven that, which isn't always the case either. Sometimes you can get away with not having a padron for the first registration, but we strongly advise you get one. I've got healthcare and I've got funds to support myself, and that is pretty much all you need for an EU citizen. But after that, the third country national, the person, let's say if it was a British person who's coming with an Irish EU family member, would have to then make an application to the government on a platform called Mercurio, applying for the permission to reside in Spain. And this application should be done within the 90-day Schengen tourist period, because you do not want to be here illegally. So when you enter the country as an EU and an EU family member, it's always best to have as many days on your Schengen allowance as possible, so you can get your ducks in a row in terms of getting that initial EU residency and then requesting the EU family members residency after that. And specifically in this video, I want to talk about a requirement for this application, the EU family member who is submitting their application online, and what crazy things we have had back that have been requested from immigration. Okay, so let's just get into the correct lane though first, wouldn't it, you know? So what do you have to initially submit as an EU family member? Well, there's a few more requirements of the EU citizen. First of all, you have to submit all the documents from the EU citizens, that proving their passport, their residency card, which they would have obtained at this point. You also have to submit a joint padron certificate to prove that you are registered at your local town hall together. You also have to submit a full copy of your passport to prove that when you enter the country, every single page. You have to submit proof that you have healthcare in Spain. Healthcare is covered either by private policy, or if the EU citizen is working, got a contract, or is self-employed, then your healthcare will be covered by that. And you also have to prove that you've got enough funds to support yourself in Spain. On that note, it's better if the funds are either being paid into Spain, are in Spain, or you're earning money in Spain. But we'll do a whole other video on that. They're very focused when it comes to EU family members on Spanish paperwork. They really are. And the income, the healthcare and everything that you've got in Spain. Alright, so you put all that together, and as a EU family member, you then make an application on the government's website on a specific platform called Mercurio. You'll need a digital certificate for this, or if you're working with a company like ours, we use a representation digital certificate as representatives and submit it on your behalf. Okay, now once the application has been submitted for an EU family member within the 90 Schengen days, then they have 90 days to resolve the application. There's a few tricky points here to be made. First of all, we've had lots which have gone over the 90 days, and they say in the initial letter, if it goes over the 90 days, you can consider the application to be rejected. But then we make a incident report on their platform. They come up to us and say, no, we're very busy. The application will be resolved soon. Although you can consider it to be rejected after the 90-day period, because that's what the law states, we have an obligation to respond to the request, and it could be approved on that time. So the first thing is, how do you explain that to a client? Okay, how do you explain to a client over 90 days they've sent us a letter saying you just consider it to be rejected if we haven't answered, but we do have an obligation to answer, and the likelihood is that it's going to be approved. So that small period, they normally come in around 100 days, if that. They normally don't leave it too many days after the 90 days. But that small period, how on earth are you supposed to explain that to somebody? You know, if there's a client, oh, by the way, the law says you are rejected, but really you're not, because they just haven't got to your file. That's the only way I can explain it, really. Okay, so that's the first piece of paper we get, just to say that it's going through and giving us the timescales, and that's how long it can actually take. Hopefully you receive a resolución favorable, which is the favourable resolution, which is your permission then to reside in Spain before the 90 days after submission, and then you go straight to get your TIE card to the police station, and then you'll get a 5-year card. If you get a denial letter, something that straight denies your residency for whatever reason, you have 30 days to actually appeal that at the same office that deny you, or there is slightly other time. There's different time parameters if you don't want to appeal directly to the office but want to go to court to appeal it. But I would definitely advise that you go straight back to the stamp and appeal. If that is the case, don't take it to court, because that could drag it out and be very expensive, and it's probably not necessary. Or in many cases we get this thing called a requerimiento, a requirement letter requiring more documents. This is very normal for the subdelegations, for the governments and stuff like that. They send out an awful lot of these letters requiring bits and bobs of different documents, or if something's not slightly right, or they might want to verify a passport stamp, say, can you send me the proof of the travel because we can't quite verify a passport stamp, or could you send us further proof of the income that they're receiving, or could you send us the healthcare worded differently, or something like that. So it's quite normal to get one of these requirement letters, and you have 10 working days to respond to this requirement letter. But this brings me to the main point, and I know I've been waffling on now for 9 minutes, but I've been building up, explaining to get to this point. What are the crazy requirements that we are getting in these letters back from immigration? Let's show you where we are as well. Well, to explain this, I now need to take you back 5 years to the withdrawal agreement. Okay. Now, during the withdrawal agreement residency applications, not the people who are switching from a green card to a TIE card, no, people who had to apply in the government's, or on the government's Mercurio platform, I should say. For those people who applied on the government's Mercurio platform as beneficiaries of the withdrawal agreements, which is the same platform that EU family members use to apply, okay, around the September, October time in 2020, we started getting this list of requirements from them, or suggestions of things that they wanted to see to prove real and effective residence in Spain. This means, because the paperwork was essentially the same for the withdrawal agreement applicants as it is for an EU family member, because the withdrawal agreement is enshrined within EU law, was you always submit proof of where you live, proof of how you're going to fund your life in Spain, healthcare, and if you're a beneficiary of somebody, all their details as well. Yeah, so that's always that's the main bulk of what you submit. If you've got children, slightly more complicated, birth certificates, maybe if you're a beneficiary of somebody, marriage certificates, apostilles, translations, school registrations as well, that all comes into play. But back then they started giving us this list of crazy requirements that they wanted just to prove that you are actually living here in Spain as well. And this went on for a while. It was fine, we submitted stuff, people getting their approvals, then we never saw this text again until a couple of years ago. And then suddenly, with an EU family members application, we got a requirement letter with this text on it, and as soon as I saw it, I went, that's a cut and paste from the requirements that we used to get within the withdrawal agreement. It's exactly the same text, exactly the same. So, and basically the text, if you translate it, is the following. They'll say, won't ask you for healthcare, won't ask you for money, won't have for proof of where you live, but they do ask for further proof of real and effective residence in Spain. This can be bank statements, proof of appointments, signed contracts, medical hospital records, utility bills, phone bills, television or internet bills, invoices, service receipts, travel evidence, work invoices, and proof of payment, certificates from public entities or private entities, or tax returns. Okay, so evidently when people get this, now if you get this, the first thing is, if you're not dealing with us and you're dealing with another company, they send you this letter, or you're doing this application yourself, right, then really the first thing I want to explain is they're not asking for every single one of these documents. In fact, some of them are impossible for you to provide, because things like tax returns, well, you don't have tax returns because you haven't lived here long enough to do a Spanish tax return. They specifically state RPF on it. Alright, so don't panic, they're not asking for everything. Right, so I'm going to run down this list. So if you have received this requirement as an EU family member of certain things that you can provide, and it's also going to help people who are looking to move over, especially to Malaga, to start saving from day one the documents that you're supposed to save. Okay, just in case you get this requirement back from immigration. So let's start with the first thing, bank statements. They're saying records of transactions with establishments in Spain showing payments or expenses in Spain. So as quickly as you can, and you establish an account, or the account that you're using in Spain to start spending in Spain, okay, is a good idea. So when you get here, open your account and start spending. If you have invoices, for example, if you are going to the restaurant to have something to eat and you spend 65 euros, take the receipt with the date, keep it in your wallet, and that corresponds to the bank account where the 65 euros has come out. If an EU and EU family members, it's always best if it's a joint bank account, or the bank account is in the name of the EU citizen. Right? Keep those receipts. The receipt itself isn't proof that you were actually there, because it doesn't have your name on it, but the bank account and the receipt together just prove that you've got expenses in Spain. And do that for everything. So keep all your receipts and keep them in order. Then when you make your application, which is likely to be around the 3-month period after you've entered Spain, you'll have the 3 months bank accounts, or maybe a little bit less, because it's going to take you time to open your bank account, and the receipts which correspond with that bank account. They can be put into one PDF and sent across to cover that first point. It's very important to know that if your bank account does not issue statements in Spanish, then they will have to be translated. And because this is quite a quirky requirement, you don't know if they're going to ask for it or not, there's no point in spending hundreds of euros on translations. So I would suggest that you definitely get a Spanish bank to prove this, albeit an online one where you can download your statements, but definitely get a Spanish bank. And use that as your expenses. Use that to start spending as soon as you possibly can to prove this. The next one, proof of appointments, documents confirming scheduled visits in Spain. Well, this could be anything. This could be anything. So this could be anything from what can we say, if you had an appointment to go to the local tax office to set up your IBI house tax, if you had an appointment at a notary, if you may walk away from that notary with an invoice proving you're at the appointment. Any appointment that you attend, whether it's going to your gestoria or your lawyer, ask them for proof of that. We have actually submitted in the past signed and stamped letters from lawyers, tax advisors and people that you generally would need to meet up with, okay, to get yourself started in Spain. If you're coming to meet us, I can write you a letter and say that you were in our office, and as a registered self-employed person, I spoke to you about your possibility of moving to Spain or the documents that we needed from you to move to Spain. Okay, so it's definitely a good idea that anywhere you go to any appointment, if possible, you get written proof of that appointment. Right? It could be anything. It could be your let's say you're registering to go to the gym. Use that as well. Get your gym membership. It has to have your name on it. Hopefully your ID number on it, your NIE would be even ideal, and proof of when you went, the date, and evidently the proof of the entity in which you attended the appointment. Right, so we're going to just pay the toll road. So the next one on the list is medical or hospital records. Well, let's hope that you don't have to attend the medical in an emergency during your first 3 months here, or ever when you live here. But depending on your situation, you may be able to register at the doctors early, especially if you've got private healthcare. So if you've got private healthcare in Spain and you've taken it out for the Registro Residency application and you need to go and get set up with your doctor, make sure that you've got records of that visit. Make sure that you definitely keep a record of that visit. So any trip to the doctors or any prescriptions that you may be given or anything like that can be added to this. Now we put these in separate PDFs sometimes, or depending on how much, we'll put it all in one and write a title to it, but keep every single bit. Prescriptions again will have your name on it, the pharmacy where you got them and when you bought them, and they'll be related to a medical appointment as well. If in the unfortunate event you do have any emergency, keep all that documentation as well. One thing that it doesn't say on here either, which is slightly related to this but not so much, is vets bills. What if you've got an animal here in Spain and that animal you're the registered keeper and you've gone to the vets? Make sure that you've got the proof that you're the registered keeper and that you've got the invoice from the vets which proves you were there with that animal, because no one else is going to pay for your animal to get better, are they? So that's always a good idea. And the other thing is things like opticians. So it doesn't have to be a medical emergency. It might be opticians, private dentists, it might be osteopaths, it might be wherever you're getting yourself set up in Spain, either in the private or public system. Keep those receipts within that first 3 months and use that as part of your proof of living in Spain. Okay, what's the next one? Payslips. What's it? Payslips, I have to look here. I suppose because I'm driving, I have to be careful as well, don't we? Payslips or salary receipts. Well, that's going to be the EU citizen who might be working already. It's a good idea to also, well, you would submit that anyway as part of the financials. So really, there's no point mentioning it. Any sort of self-employment, pay slips, or any sort of work that was legally being carried out by the EU citizen would be submitted anyway. So you don't really see why they say that. Utility bills, electricity, water, gas for the residents in Spain. Okay then, now if you're an owner, that's fine, because you'll have all your contracts in place and you'll be able to prove that you've been spending on utilities and just send the bills across. If you're renting, that might not be the case, because you've got a legal contract, definitely have your rental contract in place, all right? Then the bills, you may have to request that the owner of the property where you're renting send them to you, because some formats are like that, where they send you the bill and you have to pay it, but sometimes people don't actually get the bill. So speak to the owner of the property where you're renting and tell them that I need the utility bills to prove that we're actually living there, and get them to write a letter as well and get them to sign it and say, yeah, these people, they're paying us and this is how we are receiving the money for the utilities, albeit that's a private letter, it's not officially stamped or anything. It all helps towards the case, and they'll have a contract there, rental contract, and the ID of the person that you're renting off, hopefully, as well. So that's a good idea. Phone bills. Now this is one you say, well, hey a minute, I can phone from anywhere. Yeah, I think what they mean by this is phone bills and records is when you get to Spain, the sooner you get a Spanish phone number, the better. The sooner you start using that Spanish phone number, the better. And if you have records of calls within Spain using that phone from a Spanish registered phone number, then definitely 100% you can submit that and show that you've been living in Spain and even making phone calls in Spain. So that's a good idea. And you can submit that for both of you, the EU citizen and the EU family member as well. Just coming up to some roadworks here in the A7. We're on our way to Marbella today, believe it or not. Actually getting out on an appointment. So the next one is television and internet bills. Who gets television bills? What does that even mean? Internet bills. Evidently, if you've got internet and there's usage at a property, try and find some way to prove what internet you're actually using at that property and the bill that's in your name. Good idea. So internet, that's the next one on the list. Television bills, I'm not too sure what they're referring to by television bills. But if you buy a TV, make sure, if you buy anything or any electrical goods, this is a good point, make sure you get an official Factura. So they'll put an official Factura using your address, your name, your NIE number, and that will relate to the bank account where you bought it from. You'll be submitting your bank accounts and they can say, oh yeah, 8th of March, 65-inch TV, 1,000 euros, Factura. There we go. They must be living here. They like watching TV. Next one brings me on to this nicely, is invoices issued with address in Spain. These invoices are called facturas. You can literally request a factura for anything, right, that you buy, even on Amazon. Okay, so get an Amazon.es account, download it, register your address, and download the official invoice. If you go to a shop, if you buy clothes, if you buy anything, if you request a factura, they should give you a factura, which is an official invoice with your name and proves that you were there to request that bill. Can you get facturas in someone else's name? Quite possibly. My wife sometimes does it with me, or if it's something that I'm doing which is part of her business, then I might get one in her name. But look, that's what it says on the list to do it. Get an official factura from anywhere where you spend any money. Normally you can't get them from restaurants, but any physical item you normally can get them. Travel evidence, here we go. Oh sorry, service receipts is the next one. Documents from public or private entities proving the receipt of a service in Spain. Well, we touched on that, didn't we? So we've already touched on utilities, we've touched on notaries, and anything else that you can think that you might need, or any other person that you've spoken to that offers a service, make sure you get a receipt. But we pretty much touched on that before, didn't we? And now we're coming off of La Cañada. Check this out. Travel evidence, yep, evidently your travel evidence into Spain. Well, you're going to be in Spain anyway. You're going to have one stamp in your passport. But any travel evidence within Spain, buses, trains, anything where you've bought an official invoice to travel within Spain, even flights. You might have gone up, if you're in Malaga, gone up to Santander and had a weekend. Who knows? That's not even leaving Spain. You might have gone to Lanzarote. You're still in Spain. So keep all evidence of travel within Spain and entering Spain. That is and it's just started to rain. That's a good idea. Keep all travel evidence, bus, train, plane, even taxi rides, even Ubers will give you official receipts. So keep them all, show where you've been. And last but not least, we have, here we go, no, the certificates, travel evidence, work invoices. Oh, we've already done all of those. And what we got? So basically, then they go on to repeat other stuff like work invoices. And what they mean by that is work in a property. If you're having work done to maybe maintain a property or something like that, no cash, I'm afraid. Get the official invoices from the people, plumbers, electricians, whatever. If they're happy also to declare that they were doing the work in your property, get a letter stamped from their office. Most people come from big companies, they may not provide it, but could it harm to actually ask for it? Absolutely not. So anybody that you're speaking to, plumbers, electricians, get them to write on the invoice the date and time that they were actually at your property, what they did, how they did it. That's a great idea, because that also proves that you're establishing your life in Spain. But don't worry, we've never actually seen anybody rejected for not providing any of these documents. It's not even mentioned in the law that you have to give your dentist appointments, is it? But it is something that if you don't provide it straight away, that can cause a delay in the process. So you might as well right at the beginning nip it in the bud and present immigration with all the documents with the insight that they might come back and ask for these anyway. The other bit of advice I've got for you as well is that albeit you get to that 3-month stage where you're making the application, or even before you've submitted these documents, continue to keep collecting documents, albeit you've made a submission with these documents, because if they come back and ask for more, you can always give it to them. We didn't speak about school registrations as well. I think I mentioned that earlier on in the video, but any school excursions, anything that your kids are doing, keep the documents. It's all good proof. Anything with the Junta Andalucía, which is Malaga's regional government, keep the documents. So anyway, I hope you liked the video. Please remember to subscribe. Hit the like button, hit the bell if you want to know more about getting residency in Spain and more about living in Spain as well. Don't forget our weekly updates that we have, and also check out, we've got 15 podcasts on here and on Spotify as well, which are really interesting. Everything from people who are professionals working in Spain helping people to move here, all the way to people who have moved here and they're telling us our story. So until next time.